Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, best-selling author, and also a speaker. Every single day, I have the opportunity to help others unlock their potential and guide them to succeed. Today, I have an amazing guest. This is somebody I've worked with for a very long time, and he's helped me out numerous times. And I make this joke to lots of people saying that I've worked with him so long that sometimes I just hear him in my head all the time when I have a problem or a question. He's an international speaker. He's the author of the book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Results, and he's the #1 results coach. Please welcome Mr. Shawn Shewchuk.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible intro. I'm going to do my best to live up to it.
Well, thanks for being here and spending some time with us. And before we move on, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you started, and how you became who you are today.
Wow. Where do I start? Listen, I've been doing this for a very long time. I joke with people, of course, and you've heard this before as I speak, that I had a full head of hair when I started, and coaching wasn't known as coaching. I've had the privilege to work with, we're over 9,800 people, I think now. And the purpose of why I do what I do is it drives me. The one-on-one coaching drives me. I love working with people and watching this transformation. And we have lots of programs to work with people from a coaching standpoint from that. But for me, I came from a place where I grew up in a very conservative, I don't mean that politically, environment. My family was very much old school. Money was a taboo topic. And my dad was an entrepreneur who worked hard. God bless him, he's passed. And I realized very quickly that I needed to do something different. So I decided to move from small town to a big city, and I did. And I got a job and realized very quickly that I was highly unemployable. And although I had vowed I would never be an entrepreneur, of course, I'm 43 companies in a whole bunch of different verticals and professions, and been very fortunate and blessed to work with incredible people just like yourself over the years. This has been a journey that I couldn't have traded for anything. And I think what's important here is you and I have talked in the past about risk taking. If you're not willing to take a risk, you're not going to succeed at a high level. Status quo is going to give you more of the same, gives you more of the same. So for me, and the conversations I have at this point in time in my life and business and career with people is, do you believe in yourself enough to make the right decision to do what it's going to take to get you there?
Now, you mentioned risk, and when it comes to risk, there's always challenges as well. And the more risk you take, the more challenges there are. What's the first thing you do when you face a challenge and go, you know what, I'm going to overcome this challenge. This is what I'm going to do. What's that mindset like for you? What do you think about?
You ask tough questions, and I love it. So here's the key behind this. We all face challenges. Some of the challenges are real. Some of them are not. Some of them are perceived. First of all, you need to understand what's real and what's not. And sometimes we create our own challenges by overanalyzing a situation, whether it case be. Those are not necessarily challenges. When I'm faced with a very significant challenge, one of the first things I do is spend a little bit of time. Sometimes it's closing the office door. Sometimes it's going for a walk, whatever that happens to be for you, and it's different for all of us, and really understand what it is. And sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it may be 5 hours. But it really is starting to understand what it is that is going on or that needs to happen or what a solution might be. The problem for most people is when they do this, they don't focus on solutions. They get focused in on the problem, and then it becomes worse. It exacerbates that problem, the stress, the anxiety, etc. When we take a step back and do your best to do, the 40,000-foot view and say, okay, I'm facing this. Okay, what are solutions to this? Not focusing on the problem. We already know the problem exists, or at least the perception of the problem exists. So what do I do to resolve this? In some cases, we look back and go, well, it's actually not a problem.
That's very, very true. Now, one thing that is a problem right now is COVID, and everybody's either stuck at home, things are shut down, things are opening up. This is a challenge that everybody's facing, but entrepreneurs like yourself and people like in business, they need to be able to react, and they're able to adjust certain things and kind of take on this challenge and still be able to be successful in what they're doing. What have you been doing to adjust to this whole new normal, and then also still be successful in what you do?
That's a really good question, and I think it's one that I looked at back in March for our team, and even maybe a little bit prior to that, beginning of March, before we sort of saw the whole world shut down around the middle of March, or at least this part of the world. Listen, I think there's something really interesting to be said for where a lot of people have gone over the past, it's been nearly 3 months. None of us have ever experienced this that are alive today. This is entirely new. This is uncharted. We're blindly feeling our way through this. Now, there are some people that are going to shut down. There are some people that are going to look at the problem, as I said a moment ago, and they're going to get so locked in on the problem that they're not going to ever do anything about it. There are definitely some people that have contracted this illness, and there's some folks that have lost their lives. And to be very clear, my heart goes out to them. So first, let me address that. Secondly, this is an opportunity, and I mean opportunity in the original sense of this word, that we have never seen in our lifetime. Right now, more than ever, for any person listening, watching this show, you have an opportunity to do something that no one else has done in generations. There are an incredible amount of problems, okay? And if you are an entrepreneur, I want you to look at it from this perspective, not the one the media would have you look at it from, okay? The larger the problems you can solve, the more you're worth, or your product or service, okay? How can you help people solve problems? And there are a lot of them right now. Now, let's be very clear. There are some businesses that were already in trouble prior to March, and COVID-19 was, unfortunately for them, kind of the last nail in the coffin. And although I never want to see a business go under, there are some businesses, and I've had some of these phone calls come through my office over the course of the last couple of months, where the demise of the business was very likely inevitable. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be that way for everybody. This is an opportunity of being able to push a reset button. You know, I asked questions in interviews before. I said, if you could push the easy button today, you know, Staples came out with the easy button a few years ago, and they said, man, these stupid little things that don't do anything. And if you could push the easy button and make a shift or a change in the process, what got you to where you are, what would it be? And people have varying answers. But this is a reset button, okay? And we need to look at it from that angle. You are at a place in your life where you right now, based on everything that's going on around us, that you have an opportunity unlike anything else. And right now, there are people that need services, products. How do you have those services or products address certain levels of challenges that people see? Because they need help.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very, very true. Now, when it comes to coaching, I know you yourself have your own coach. So lots of people would ask, for somebody like yourself who is so successful already and have already achieved so many different things, why do you still have a coach?
As we speak, I actually have two. So listen, without question, coaching is something that works. There are people that question it. You and I've had this conversation over the years. You're an example of how incredible the coaching process is in the results it can deliver when the individual who is seeking coaching actually acts on it. Coaching is a process that, think of it this way. Really, truly successful people today all have coaches, sometimes more than one. I don't care what you're in. It could be business, could be life, could be sports, could be whatever that is. They have and multiple coaches. So I want your audience to hear this because it's real. If you right now are thinking about hiring a coach and you're debating, you're sitting on the fence, what are you waiting for? Because the reality of this is you're going to be in the same place 10 years from now that you are today if you don't take and be proactive. Listen, right now is one of the best times in the world to make a shift and a change. Why? Because change has happened. Since March, the world has changed in all aspects. We just don't know what the changes are yet. We've not yet emerged completely. We're starting to from the whole COVID-19 coronavirus thing. And as we emerge, the changes will become evident. You need to be on the forefront, riding the wave. If you're sitting on your hands, if you're waiting for a government handout, yeah, if there's money, sure, take it. But that's not the answer. You have the answer. In the book you referenced in the intro, Change Your Mind, Change Your Results, my first book, I talk about, I think it's chapter 4, where I talk about creating your own economy. You need to become inner directed, not outer directed. In other words, the outside influences shouldn't dictate to you whether or not you see yourself as successful. Remember, success is, according to Earl Nightingale in the 1950s, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So you've never arrived. Coaching is that vehicle that helps you see it differently. You avoid potholes, you collapse time frames, And guess what? If you're really wanting to make a difference, coaching is going to help you do that. It's about having an impact, in my opinion.
Now, you talked a lot about the coaching aspect. What is the very best coaching advice you've ever gotten?
I worked with Bob Proctor many, many years ago, and one of the things he said to me is, "Don't argue with me."
Oh, okay.
Very simple.
Short and sweet.
It
Now,
is.
my next question was going to be, what's your biggest life lesson? Is that the same thing?
No, it's not. Listen, life's short. Back in 2005, I received a phone call about 9 o'clock one morning on the 18th of October. And it was my brother letting me know that my dad had passed away. And he was very young, 61 years old, probably healthier than I was. And it was a wake-up call. And I've had a few of those wake-up calls or epiphanies or aha moments in my life, all of which have had an incredibly dramatic impact, positive impact on the direction of my life and how I've conducted business and operated. And I think the biggest lesson in life is that, for me anyway, is take advantage of every minute. Many years ago, I made a decision, if when I had kids, I would spend an incredible amount of time with the kids, and I do. And I have 2 kids, and I'm blessed and fortunate. And yes, sometimes they keep me up at night, and yes, sometimes they break nice things and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, it's an incredibly amazing experience. Some of the best teachers I have ever had are my 2 kids.
No. Now, I know that you speak all over the world, and you speak in front of lots of people, thousands of people. Is there one secret thing that you do right before you go up on stage to really pump yourself up and just give you that mentality of, you know what, I'm going to crush this?
I live in a place where every day, without me coming across or sounding pompous, where I believe that my life mission is to have a positive impact. And I live that every day of my life. And when I come up to that moment where I am stepping on a stage, I'm no exception to the rule. I'm a human being where I think the best reprogramming we can ever do is teaching this thing, because we're hardwired to default to the negative. So being able to switch that on a constant basis and being aware of it, I think, is the key. So yeah, when I go up on stage, I certainly, there's some self-talk involved. Absolutely.
Is there a mantra that you say?
No, not necessarily. I think every audience is different. Sometimes it's topic driven. I spoke at an event in the United States a number of years ago. There was 450 of the most educated women in the United States sitting in that room. I was the only guy in the room. It was an interesting audience. I'd never had that in an audience before, and I was amazing. It was fantastic. And the organizer of the event came up to me. She goes, I was in the green room. She said, "Shawn, are you nervous?" I said, "No. Why?" She goes, "You're the only guy here." I said, "Listen, what better place for a guy to be?" But the reality of it was, I hadn't thought about it till she said something. It was an interesting audience. But yeah, I never won the same. But my objective and goal is always being able to deliver extreme value, and that's really my focus. How do I convey the message? How do I impact the individuals that I had the privilege to speak with that day?
Very, very well said. Now you're back on that world stage. You have the next 2-3 minutes to spread one message for everybody to hear. What would that message be?
Wow, there's nothing like pointing the gun at me and putting some pressure on, is there, Fong? Listen, so many of us every day, we wake up and we go, where should I start? What should I do? We look at our desks, we look at our trucks, we look at whatever it is we do. And the first thing we tend to do is put fires out. Listen, you're on this planet for a reason. Every single one of you has a purpose for being here. You may or may not realize what that purpose is at this point in time in your life, but I want you to think about something. We're all human beings. We're all in this journey, whatever it happens to look like for you, together. And you need to be able to deliver. I don't care if you sell cars or homes or whatever it is you do for a living, it involves people. You may not think it involves people, but it does involve people. And you need to be the very best at whatever it is you do. If you don't like what you do, still be the best at it. Opportunities will present themselves. But I want you to take a shift. How do you have that impact? You watch people like Fong and maybe myself and others. You say, yeah, man, I wish I could do that. Well, many, many years ago, I was that guy standing at the back of the room looking at my shoes to make sure they were still shiny and hoping and praying that at some point in time I could have an impact. And then it hit me. Honestly, it was one of those moments in time and I was watching Bob Proctor, and for those who don't know him, go look him up on stage. And I made a commitment to myself. I didn't go tell anyone else because at that point in time in my life, I didn't realize the value of a goal. And I didn't want to embarrass myself if I didn't achieve my goals. So, but I committed to me that I was going to become a speaker. And I went to Bob Proctor events. Yes, I learned, but I went a lot of the times just to watch him speak, and I would sit there and take notes. And one of the things he said to me impacted me. He said, if you're just starting in speaking, he said, for every minute you're on stage, it's an hour of practice time. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is craziness. You have incredible potential buried deep within you. One of the best things in the world you can do is get yourself a coach. Call a guy like Fong and have him help you excavate that immense potential and then break it down into bite-sized pieces and execute on it. That will start the process. Listen, Jack Canfield says in Success Principles, you can drive across the entire country at night and you trust that the next 200 feet of road is going to be there in your headlights. But most people don't trust themselves to take the first step. You need to take the first step. And that first step is aligning yourself with the right coach. That's working hand in hand and side by side with someone who's going to help you avoid potholes and collapse timeframes. And the reality of it is, you can't do it alone.
Very well said. Thank you for that. Now, before I let you go, I have a few quick questions for you to answer. One-word answers. If you were on the Amazing Race and you were able to grab that envelope, you rip that envelope open, and you're very excited to go where?
At this point in time, anywhere.
All right. So now you're at anywhere. Who would you be? Who would you like to do the Amazing Race with?
Without question, my wife.
Very good. And then finally, what kind of activity would you like to be able to do together on the Amazing Race?
Oh my goodness, you really put questions to me. You know what? You have this knack for interviewing and asking tough questions of me. And I don't know that I have an answer for you. My wife and I actually had an interesting trip planned prior to whole, the travel around the world coming to a halt, and we ended up canceling that back in March. My idea of traveling is a little different. I'm the one that likes to see cool sights and investigate history and this kind of thing. But it's also being able to, and perhaps this is different than most people how they answer your question, but for me, it's about decompressing. It's about recharging. It's about doing something that I don't typically get to do at home. And when you run a business, which I'm very blessed to do, and maybe more than one business, and you have a couple of young kids like I do, sometimes getting away for a week or two or whatever that happens to be, the activities aren't more about activities, it's about not having activities. And you might get there pretty soon, my friend.
Actually, I have a couple more here. Now, you have to prepare a very, very special dinner for your wife. What's your expertise?
As far as culinary?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question. What I'd like to prepare is probably not what she wants.
I'm saying what your specialty is. So.
You know what? I don't eat a lot of meat anymore, and you and I've had this conversation in the past. But you know, I'm very handy at the grill, so it would probably be a steak, along with all the fixings.
And finally, what is success like? You've played this once before. I have 5 cards here. Give me a number between 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success like a razor burn?
Wow. Well, if you said failure, I would have had an answer for you. I don't know the answer to the question as far as what razor burn and success have in common. But I can tell you this, sometimes both hurt.
That's very true. So thank you very much for that answer and for your time and your wisdom. Now, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Please go to our website, changeyourresults.com, and reach out. Happy to have a conversation with anybody. If I can, I'll give away something. Go to freebookfromshawn.com, freebookfromshawn.com, and get a copy of my first book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Results.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that too. And again, thanks for your time. And for everybody else, my name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. I'll see you next time.